Hello everybody and welcome back to True Crime with Nat. Today I have an interesting one that I'm surprised I haven't covered yet because you guys know this guy already. I thought about not even doing it because there's so much information out there about this guy. I actually wanted to cover this case today because when I first started learning about this case, I did not know that this man never unalived someone. So, interesting. So let's get right into it. Charles Manson is our topic today. Charles Manson. So he was born on November 12th, 1934 to Kathleen Maddox in Cincinnati, Ohio. So off to a rough start already, but it gets even worse. His mother was a interesting worker, a sex worker, if you know what I mean, and she was suffering from alcoholism. And throughout Charles Manson's early-ish life, he was bounced around between aunts and uncles' houses, just different family members and different boys' schools. He would get kicked out of them or God knows what. So he would just never really had a place to call his own, his home kind of thing. So Charles Manson's dad was never really in the picture. His name is Colonel Walker Henderson Scott Sr., and he died when Manson was only 20 due to cirrhosis in the liver, which generally comes from hepatitis or alcoholism. So in 1951, Manson began his life in and out of prison. He realized he could act as a model prisoner and get everyone to like him and really just rule the area. Really liked how structured prison was. Prison is also where he really got into music. In prison, he wrote songs and took classes for music. So he went into prison when he was 16 and then got out when he was 32. So by then, he had spent the majority of his life in prison and really didn't even want to get out. He asked if he could stay because he liked it there so much. But it was honestly the only true home that he knew. He wasn't bouncing around a lot, finally. So it was the only true home he knew. That's why he wanted to stay. So they actually just kicked him out. Obviously, you can't just stay in prison. So after prison, he decided he wanted a family of his own kind of thing. So he started preying on mostly women, but some men. And then he bought Spawn Ranch, I think is how you say it. This is where he would have the men and women come and become a part of his family. But these men and women were not as bad as Manson, you could say. They didn't come from as bad as Manson came from. So they came from even rich families. They just weren't heard. So they just felt like an outsider. At his little Spawn Ranch, he banned books, watches, clocks, and calendars because he didn't want his followers or family members to be distracted from seeing the natural beauties that this world has to offer. The family members were constantly tripping, if you know what I mean. So they're gonna see the natural beauties of the world as is. This is when Charles Manson started making an album with one of the boys from Beach Boys. This album actually never ended up getting leaked. You cannot find it anywhere. This is because Manson showed a bullet to the guy from the Beach Boys that he was making the music with and said, every time you see this, you should be thankful that your kids are safe. After this, that guy from the Beach Boys, rightfully so, beat the booty out of Manson. He never talked to him again, and he never saw him again. This started Manson's hate for famous folk and Hollywood as a whole. Him and his followers even started a celebrity hit list. In 1969, Manson shot a substance dealer for messing with one of his family members, and he ran. He took off. He got out of Dodge. So the next day, the news reported that a Black Panther member was shot and killed. So Manson thought that he shot and killed that guy, even though that guy didn't die. That he shot, stay with me, I'm sorry. So the guy he shot didn't die, but he thought he did, right? So this ended up not being the same guy, obviously. But after this, he thought the whole Black Panther Society was after him. On August 9th of that year, Manson sent out some women in his group and one man. This would start the Manson murders. Manson gave these women and that guy a address and said to kill everyone on the property. The following day, Manson did the same thing and sent another male with him. So there was 2 men and quite a few women, like 3 or 4, I think. On August 26th, the family killed one of their own members because they thought that he was a snitch. And then 4 months after the murders, everyone was arrested and charged for their crimes, even Manson. And then finally, in January of 1970, everyone, including Manson, was found guilty, and sentenced to life in prison. The main guy from the group that would go out and actually murder people, his name was Tex Watson, and he was actually sentenced to death, the only one who was sentenced to death. At first, Manson was given the death penalty, which it ended up being overturned because everyone was like pissed off or whatever, and he ended up with life in prison. And then about 7.5 years ago, on November 19th of 2017, Manson passed away from natural causes at the age of 83. So that one was kind of quick today because everyone knows about Charles Manson, and I was trying different things, you know? So let me know how you like this one, and if you have any suggestions, just message me, hit me up. But until then, I'll see you next time. Y'all stay safe out there.